Done by Noon podcast, episode number 9. Today we're going to talk about the 4 keys to create a successful Done by Noon schedule.
You're listening to the Done by Noon podcast, a podcast for entrepreneurs who want to achieve more by noon than others in a full day. Serial entrepreneur Dave Ruel and his co-host Chris Lopez share the strategies that will help you optimize your productivity, performance, and lifestyle so you can reach new heights in your business and life. So if you're ready to become the most efficient and effective entrepreneur you know, you're in the right place. Welcome to the show.
This episode is brought to you by the Done by Noon book, the ultimate guide to achieve more by noon than other entrepreneurs in a full day. As a listener of the Done by Noon podcast, you can grab a free copy of the book at www.donebynoonpodcast.com/free book. But hurry, we've only printed a few thousand copies of this book, and when they are gone, they're gone. Once again, you can claim your free copy of the Done by Noon book at www.donebynoonpodcast.com/free book. Now, back to Dave and Chris.
Chris, you ready to do it?
You're listening to the Done by Noon podcast.
That's very accurate, bro.
I'm telling you, man. I might have a future in beatboxing.
Oh, that was so. The way it came around, guys, is that I screwed up the first recording, so my intro wouldn't actually start. So Chris did the beatbox version of the intro. So,
Oh man,
how you doing, my man?
I'm good. I'm fantastic. It's nice and warm in Costa Rica. It's beautiful. So
There you go, man. It's
Yeah.
getting cold here in Canada, but you'll be back soon.
I know. I'm
So,
coming back
yeah.
just in time for what apparently is the worst winter in the history of Toronto.
I mean, you guys. I mean, Toronto is like exotic for us Maritimers, right? So you guys, like, I'm on the east coast of Canada. Toronto is what? I think it's it's what, an 18-hour drive or something like that. It's pretty far.
Yeah, it's far.
West. Yeah. So you guys are pretty far from us, but you guys don't get slammed every year by crazy amounts of snow and crazy cold.
Oh, I think a couple of years ago you sent me a picture and it was like literally you open your front door and it was just a wall of snow. Like the imprint of the outside of your door was on the snow.
That's typical. That's typical, New Brunswick thing. Like, you run out of space in your freezer. You just open the door and just put your beers in the stuff. That's how it works, man.
And that's why I live in Costa Rica.
Yeah, I think that's a thing. You have actually one of my friend Liam's from Scotland, and he comes to New Brunswick every January because he loves it. He's been doing that for years now. He comes to our place for a week every January. Everybody's like, what the hell are you doing in northern New Brunswick in January? It's like, I just love the cold. But it's like the striking thing for him is the blue skies. Like, he's like, the skies are so blue and contrasting with the white that he just loves that.
Well, see, for me, when the skies are, and I know this because I grew up in Canada, for me, I know that when you wake up in the morning in winter and the skies are blue and it's clear outside, that means it's the coldest that you'll ever experience. Like, that is the cold. Those are the coldest days.
Yes. They're super cold. Yeah. Usually, like, you're right. Exactly. They're super crisp. Yeah. I remember the first time I picked up Liam. I mean, it's been years and years now, but first time I picked him up from the airport, the first time he came to visit, and he came out of the airport. He has these, like, the Converse Chuck Taylor.
Oh my God.
With tiny socks. I was like, what?
Mistake number
did you
one.
bring boots or something? He's like, no. I was like, oh gosh. So yeah, I lended him boots for the week that he was there.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, it's hilarious. We have like these seal skin fur boots that they sell here, but they also, the ones that I have are big boots, but they're like special kind of cows. Like they're like long-haired cows, and yeah, and they make boots out of them, and just and the felts, like they're super thick felts, and they're just like super super warm, right? But it's a joke, but like it's like a inside joke here. But everybody wears them. Like it's like, yeah, everybody has a pair of fur boots
Right.
around here. Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, there's still some sun now. Anyway, it's not like that, guys. It's not like that all the time. Like summers are like 30 plus. We had a beautiful summer this year. Grew a nice garden actually. So yeah, nice. It wasn't too bad for the first year, dude. 4 potatoes. So I had 4 potatoes. I cut them in half.
Okay.
So it's like 8 halves. Guess how many potatoes I harvested? 1, 2, 3, 4 months later.
Oh, I don't know. You tell me.
I don't guess.
Okay. 32.
No, can go higher than that.
Shut up. Really?
Yeah.
How many potatoes you get?
67.
Oh my God.
With 4 potatoes. I don't know. Like it might be like the norm. I don't know. But I was like, holy smokes. With 4 potatoes, I made 67 potatoes.
Farmer
and
Dave.
Yeah. It was, and yeah. I mean, you should see the setup. It's fantastic. But anyway, we've been talking for like 6 minutes about potatoes and winter. Everybody wants to hear about done by noon schedules. So there you go. That's what we're going to talk about.
All right.
So yeah. So here's the thing, guys. Like, I mean, at this point, I think if you've been listening to the episodes, you understand, the power moves, you understand your rocks, your routines, you understand the 4 types of tasks, your rocks, your routines, your reactive task, and your responsive task. All right. So and if you don't, go read the book, please. Grab a free copy and dive in. But the key of a done by noon schedule is once you've identified really you understand what your 4 types of tasks are, and you proactively plan them. You proactively identify them and plan them. The key is to now understand how it works within your schedule. And, the first thing that you need to realize within a done by noon schedule is that not every single done by noon schedule is going to be the same, right? It's called done by noon because if you can, the classic done by noon schedule, like the one I have, for example, all my 4 types of tasks are optimized and actually scheduled before noon. And you can allow that to happen if you want to. However, you got to realize that there are 4 blocks of time that you can schedule pretty much any time that you want, depending on your schedule. I'm a classic done by noon practitioner. I think for you, Chris, you have some routines, for example, and some other tasks that you keep for like the afternoon or the end of your day, right?
I do. I have a shutdown routine at the end of my day, and that's part of my schedule because I have like coaching commitments that start at 3 p.m. And so my shutdown routine starts at 2 p.m. And then Roseanne and I actually have our own type of evening routine to make sure that we get, good sleep, and then we're able to get up early in the morning as well. So yeah, I've got my own kind of routines.
When it comes to your projects, your rocks, like when you usually attend them?
Oh, usually that's first thing in the morning. So
that you do first thing too, right?
Yeah, that's the first thing that I do when I get to the office. I have I allot 90 minutes every day.
There you go.
And it's one of those things, like for me, it's like if I can get through those 90 minutes, then I feel accomplished throughout the day, and whatever else the day throws at me, I can accommodate for. But those 90 minutes for me are untouchable.
There you go. So, like that's the thing. You can have like, I think the rocks are usually better first thing in the morning, especially if you have kids and you need to work, or you have like, solo time and deep, deeply focused time.
Yep.
I think like scheduling them first thing is always it's a power move. But, also like understand that depends on you and I work in both more, I would say, creative types of businesses where we have that and we are both online. So that gives us that type of flexibility. Someone who has, let's say, a practice or something else might not be going to be able to do like respond to emails, for example, like responsive tasks might not be able to respond to email until the end of the day. Right. And that's perfectly fine. The key is to understand that so key number 1 would be to understanding exactly like your 4 types of tasks and identify them. But after that, it's understanding that you need to work within your own context. All right. If you forget your own context and you try to force something and you just can't make it work, you're gonna be like, oh damn, like that. Okay, like that method doesn't work, right? Just because you try to fit you took it as something rigid. And the problem with most like productivity methodologies, that's what they are. They're way too rigid, just a set of routines of things, and it's just like it's not sustainable because it doesn't allow you to be flexible with your blocks, right? So you got to really take these 4 types of tasks, like the focus boxes, so the time, the time allotted to them, that you can place them at different times during the day, right? Depending on your schedule, right? So forgetting, not being flexible enough, not being flexible is one thing. Being flexible, is one key. When it comes to context, there's your own context, but there's also understanding that, I think the context of the methodology of being like not too, how can I say that? Like, just like I said, like trying to be too rigid with everything, like forgetting that sometimes if you want to, you have to keep it pleasant. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes like you want to implement something, but it sucks. You know what I mean?
It's kind of like, you and I both come from the fitness industry. So it's kind of like when I'm coaching people and their diet goes out the window on like Wednesday, and they always say, okay, well, I'm just going to start again on Monday then. And I'm just going to eat like crap for the rest of the week. Your schedule is kind of like that as well. Stuff is going to come up, but so you have to have that like flexible schedule, understanding what your priorities are, and then be able to pick up exactly where you left off instead of letting the entire day go to crap because you can't adhere to this rigid schedule. So I really hear what you're saying when you're talking about, you can't be so inflexible with your schedule.
No, exactly, right. And it's really like understanding that, again, that you have to make it work for you. The key is that the 4 types of tasks, you're always going to have that in a business setting. The things that how you're going to be reacting to them. It's like exactly the same as you said, like skipping a meal, for example. Let's say you're dieting and you skip a meal, and you're like, oh my God, because I skipped a meal, my whole plan goes to shit.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. On the greatest scale, it's like it's just a little dent. That's fine. Let's just move on. Let's just adjust and figure it out, right? So you got to be careful. If it's a recurring thing, though, if it's something that keeps coming up and you keep like not like flexibility has its limit. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is that you can be flexible, but what you want to do is to start getting into the habits of performing certain tasks at a certain time. Right. They can be moved depending on the context, but the key really is to get into the habit of performing these tasks. Right. That's why like the rocks first thing in the morning, usually like whenever, if you can make it happen, do it, because that's a great habit to have. Right. And actually recently what I did is I took, I was good like for a quarter. I was pretty much done with my buckets. I was fully caught up with everything, and I had a little bit more flexibility for the last 3 weeks. So I decided not to wake up early in the morning and do my rocks first things. Instead, I was like, I'm going to sleep in, and then I'm going to get with the old routine of waking up with the kids in the morning, right. And that actually like it was just a bad habit not a bad habit, but I was not as productive and I didn't feel as good and even awake during my day, like productive than I was before. So it's getting into the habits that are really going to contribute to you being more productive on the long term. Yeah. So,
I agree. Yeah.
So flexibility, be flexible with it. Make sure that it follows your context. And also, I think one of the things you need to do, one of the last keys, is to properly estimate your workload and completion times. I think the problem is that it's if you're starting with this methodology, and you're starting to create a done by noon schedule, I would say there's a high chance that you will underestimate your workload and the task completion time. Like more than often during, let's say, your first two quarters,
Mm-hmm.
you don't end up accomplishing what you set up because you think that, you tend to be a little bit too optimistic, but you can actually do. So the key really is properly estimate that, but understand the way you work and how things are going with different types of tasks. So let's say a routine, let's say a process that you do daily, might take you 90 minutes during your first quarter, but during your fourth quarter, using the methodology, it might take you only 45 minutes. You know what I mean? So by then you're going to be able to adjust that. And this is going to be a work in progress. So I would say work on estimating properly the amount of workload that you can actually carry. Understand that it's okay that you're going to overshoot, but you have to recalibrate. I would say recalibrate very, very often. Like every quarter, I would say ask yourself the question that, okay, is this load of work, I'm going to be able to carry that?
You think that that's something that should be done every quarter, or should be done monthly, or?
No, I usually do. I usually do quarterly because I'm going to set my goals for the full quarter, right?
Right.
So I'm going to create my buckets. I'm going to fill my buckets for the quarter. So it's 90-day cycles, and I'm going to review that after 90 days. So I'd rather commit to it for 90 days, and from there's things that, okay, it's like, okay, I totally underestimated that. That's a way bigger project than I thought. Or I don't have the time that I anticipated, let's say. I'm going to take what I didn't accomplish for that quarter and put it for next quarter, right? So, but that then I'm going to see, okay, well, this type of bucket, let's say, or this type of workload or project in the future, I know I can't account that as it might become two buckets. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm going to be readjusting the workload. But, you will underestimate, your workload. That's for sure. But yeah, I would say if that happens, and that's a good thing, Chris, if that happens and you see you totally miss the mark and it is just too much work, that's fine. It's okay to screw up or underestimate. It's just the fact that you need to reevaluate for always improve if you want constant improvement over time, but give yourself time to assess that. I feel like people are just too reactive sometimes, saying that's not going to work, or that's just too much. And they within their quarter, they're just going to redo the plan altogether. I think that's a mistake. I think you should just commit to it and spend the time to evaluate after your quarter, because on the grand scheme of things, that's not going to change much if you change the course of your planning, 1 month in, right? So I think that's just going to actually throw you off, and you're not going to be able to build these habits. So I'd rather you to overshoot completely and realize that than overthink. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. That's great. Good advice, man.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like anything else, right? Like when you work out, for example, you're not going to see results in the first couple of weeks. Let's say even if you're a seasoned, gym goer, I mean, you're going to try something else, and you're not going to expect to see massive changes, within 2 to 3 weeks. You can only assess that after you actually complete the program. And you see if it's successful or not, right? And then you have to give it maybe a few rounds for it to work. So, yeah. Have you? How's your how do you go about your work? How's your? I would say, do you have a tendency with your workload? Do you find that you tend to overshoot your workload, or you're pretty much in control all the time of the load that you have?
When I first started, I tend to overshoot a lot, and I found that I was burning the candle at both ends. These days, what I do is I make sure I list 3 things within my rocks that I need to get done every day, and they could be little things. And as long as I complete those 3 things, and it's as simple as they have to be very specific. So for example, I'm writing an email series right now. And so I have to get emails number 1 and number 2 done. And so instead of saying write email series, I say get email number 1 and number 2 done. And then once I do that, I feel accomplished and then I'm good. And so whatever the rest of the day throws at me, then I'm able to handle it. But as long as I get these 3 specific things done, then anything else I can pretty much handle. Anything else after that is bonus.
Yeah,
and that's,
because you're able to break down actually the small rock into like actually the sand into the small pieces. Yeah. And then you keep in touch. So did you find like when you work with your planner, did you tend to like use the notes section to add more tasks, or were you always very, I would say, keeping to the limited number of secondary tasks that you can
that note section I would spill over. Like it would spill over and I would just keep on adding to it. It was crazy. So then I really had to take a step back and just say, what is the essential things that I need to do? And then really look at things in the big picture and determine how to break things down accordingly into the smaller tasks within the rocks and what that is. So that was the biggest thing for me.
But because that's the thing, like, see, because you were underestimating the workload, like you were taking some of these rocks and actually putting them into your secondary tasks, for example.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the thing, that it's a big mistake that you see a lot of people do. And the problem when you do that is that you realize that the time you spend on your rocks is going to be like 3 hours instead of the 90 minutes you had scheduled for. So what happens is that like now it becomes off balance, right? So yes, you have to look into the workload, but also you have to create that limit of time every day that you can spend on these tasks, because if not, you're never going to stop working. And second, you're never going to give yourself the opportunity to improve the process. You're going to fall back into the work more mode in order to always catch up on the work, right? So it's you got to be careful. So all the workload, what I say is that when I use my planner, for example, is that if it doesn't fit in the planner, like I cannot add it. Like it just that's my physical constraint on my workload. Like if I can't fit it in the planner, like with the space that is allotted, not the notes, adding more to the notes section, but with the space that I have, it should not exist, right? It is not part of the plan for the next 90 days. And then you can use the idea box, you can use other things. But I think that's very important that you work with that in order to understand, how much time that you're going to be dedicating to each task. And from there it goes into, you go into the DOA, delegate, outsource, automate, process, etc., to optimize it. But at first, when you get started, it's very important that you follow that. So the key is that don't underestimate your workload, but it's okay if you screw up. It's okay if it doesn't fit. It's okay if you end up like with more tasks than you thought. Just don't beat yourself up. What I would say is that follow the time that you have available in your schedule and give it a hard stop every single time. Let's say you have your 90 minutes. That's your hard stop. If not, you're going to you're not going to have time to do your routines. You're not going to have time to work on, your secondary task, your reactive task. You're not going to have time to properly manage your communications and your inbox, etc., right? Your emails. So it's very important that you keep whatever you do and you decide to do within the focus boxes that you set. Stay true to the time limit for it. That's going to force you to actually optimize your schedule, so the way you work and the way you handle these tasks. And you're not going to have to keep working more in order to catch up. That's not the goal, right? So it's always going to have to be to match the workload with the time available. Mm-hmm. And it might take you on average, usually it's about 2 quarters, like to really, I would say, find some good grounds, for us, or some good, I would say some good benchmarks that we can follow. And then we can, now I can take a little bit more. It's like the process of adaptation, right? When you work out, it's like, it's going to take you some time to understand how much you can really lift, for example, right?
One of the tricks that I like to use is working against a timer as well. So if I set a specific task for myself, I like to have a timer going. So I have like an online timer. It's like a Pomodoro timer, and I work against it, and I see if I could beat it every time. And so, I mean, for me, one of the most important things is being able to create quality work, but do it fast. And so I'm always challenging myself with that. And I find that working against a timer allows me to focus a little bit better, because then it's kind of a race with myself. So whatever task I have at hand, I give it a certain amount of time, and then I try to complete it within that time.
I like that. I really like that. So because the Pomodoro, by the way, like I never, like I tried it, but I think like it's the increments of like, is it 20, 25 minutes, 20 minutes?
Yeah, but it's like for me, it's 25 minutes. But what I try to do is like I'm up to 45 now. Yeah. And so it's you're slowly increasing. I don't know if tolerance is the right word, but your ability to work with full concentration. You as you get better, you're slowly increasing that time, and it's like gaming it. It's gaming the system.
So basically, let's say you have a rock, and you have your 90 minutes for your rock that is scheduled, and let's say your rock is to write your emails, and you have these 3 emails. Do you break it down, for example, into 3 30-minute segments, and you try to beat your time every single time? Or how do you schedule? How do you break it down, your 90-minute block?
So I do the Pomodoro thing, but I try to write two emails in one Pomodoro, because all my emails are like the emails that I write are very, they're interlaced with each other. So what I try to do is I try to have like three or four text editors open at a time, because I like to interweave each one. It's just
I see what you mean. Yeah,
you know what I mean. So because with my emails, I'm always writing like there's always a story behind it.
Yeah,
right. It's like one of those Andre Chaperone tricks where it's like you're trying to connect all 4 emails. So I'll open anyway. So, and that's what I do. So I'll write 3 or 4 at a time, making sure that they're all interwoven together.
Got it. I got it. So what you do, let's say when you're done, let's say with your 90 minutes, because I know for you, like you have very specific rocks, and like, you have that project, and you're so used to that, and your projects are usually like a lot similar all the time. What you do, let's say if you spend just 60 minutes doing that, like do you just close the book, or you try to fit in another, as much as, let's say you have 90 minutes, do you try to add more stuff within the 90 minutes, or then you're done within 60?
No, I'm done. Then I'm done within 60. If I get everything that I need to get done, I'm done within 60. And then I'll take a look at my second, like if there are other tasks that need to be done that aren't as important, but that that are niceties, then I'll see if I could fit it in with there. But by no means is that a priority. I've already set my 3 priorities for the day and what I need to get done. So as long as I get that done, then everything else. Yeah, everything else kind of gets taken care of.
Yeah, but I mean, so you move, let's say when you have time, you move up, let's say one of your processes for like by 30 minutes, something like that. So I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So you technically you're building more time. You're getting more time because you work better that day.
Right. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Totally. Yeah.
I like it. For me, like I always like now, I like my workload is so, I understand like so much how much I need to work that I pretty much dialed within my workload all the time. So I would say it's pretty much always maximized the 90 minutes. It happens. It depends on it depends sometimes. I would say sometimes I'm productive. I'm maybe a little bit more tired or something like that. And I can't like perform totally, but usually I feel the full 90 minutes. Okay. Good, man.
Yeah, man.
Yes. So it's like, you got to understand. So if we're to recap a little bit, like understand your 4 types of tasks. Okay. And really, create your buckets, have your rocks ready, understand what they are, and have them ready proactively. Have your routines, your process, start with that. Schedule them properly, and then you do the same thing with your reactive tasks or your secondary tasks, and then your 4th type of task, your responsive tasks, which are your communications. Place them. So again, work within your context. So you have a context to follow based on your business, on who you are, etc. Be flexible with it. So, it's don't beat yourself up if something happens, or, just make sure you can move them around. And remember that it's not a rigid system. It's something that, you need to, context is one thing, but then you got to react to this context. And we made this methodology flexible enough that you can move these blocks around, no problem. And the fourth key is really to, properly look at the workload and completion times every single day. Not every single day, well, every single day, but make a honest assessment quarterly with it, and understanding, okay, well, maybe I need a little bit more time here, a little bit less time there, etc. Or I was able to optimize this and now it takes me less time. So understand that. Try to work within the guidelines that we give you in the book, like within the time frames. Try to work within these time frames. If you don't have like a limit to your time, you're never going to be able to implement something that is going to be sustainable. So it's very important that you do so. But try it. Let us know if you have challenges. We'd like to hear from you. What are your challenges with it, and what you would like us to, or specific context, maybe a specific context that you're in, and you're like, hey, Dave, Chris, like I need some advice based on my context. Send us an email, and we'll be more than happy to help you out within one of our next episode. All right, Lopez. Let you enjoy the nice weather. Have fun.
I got to enjoy it while I'm still here.
Exactly, man. Are you how's the there's no season. That's right. So the water is still warm.
Oh my God. So people don't know this, but so I live on the Caribbean side of Costa Rica, which is the quieter, not as populated side. And this time of year, which is usually hurricane season on the East Coast of the United States, and in the Caribbean, even though I'm on the Caribbean side during this hurricane season, this is the flattest, calmest time ever. Like if you go out, if you look at the ocean where I am right now, it looks like a lake because there are absolutely no waves. It's like glass. Great. It's the most beautiful time. And nobody knows that, but this is the best time to come to the Caribbean side of Costa Rica.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, we're just out of a little, like, we don't get hurricanes here, but we get it's like tropical storms. So they turn into tropical storms. Yeah. The water is cold and rough.
Yeah. And so for whatever reason, where we are situated in the Caribbean, we're protected from all of that. And so
that's right, because you're right behind. True. You're under the zone.
We're under the zone, and then we're kind of protected because Panama curls up beside us. So we're in like a cove. Yeah,
that's the right word.
Yeah,
a large cove.
Yep.
All right, my man. I will talk to you next week. Dan, thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. If you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to ask us.
Have a great week, everyone.
Cheers.
You have just listened to the Done by Noon podcast. If you are interested in hearing more, do not hesitate to subscribe to our channel. Click on the 5 stars or check out our free tools and trainings at donebynoonpodcast.com. Thanks again for listening, and stay awesome. We'll see you next time.